You're listening to First Paso. Because sometimes you simply need someone to help you take that first paso. Hello and welcome to First Paso, a show where we learn together how to take that first paso toward becoming the best versions of ourselves. My name is Candace Olusola, and we have a new president here in the United States. And I have a lot of thoughts about what these next 4 years may be like, things that I'm wondering, curious about, especially since the last time our new president was in office, I was living in the South, and now I live on the West Coast. So I'm very intrigued to keep my eyes open and find out what it's like to live in America while Donald Trump is our president, but from the West Coast perspective. So maybe I'll talk about it in a future episode, but today is not that day. I do ask, though, that you pray for our country, you pray for our citizens, and you pray for everyone who is holding a government office, including our president, Donald Trump. With all of that being said, today I want to kind of revisit a conversation that we talked about in season 2 of First Paso. And that topic is on what is more important, your feelings or your thoughts, your emotions or your thoughts. And I want to unpack it more because I am learning more about this topic in real time in ways that I could not have even begun to understand, couldn't have tried to understand at the time. And now it's my day-to-day life. So I'll definitely post a link in the description box as well as the YouTube video if you're watching on YouTube. So that way you can go back to that episode and really hear the baseline of what this conversation is going to be about today. So just a little snippet of what that conversation was about. It was talking about whether what we feel about a thing and the emotions that may come with that, or our thoughts about a thing, what holds more weight when it comes to truth. And I realized that what we know actually is most important because our thoughts and our feelings can lie to us. And sometimes even our emotions can lie to us. They are information, yes, but that information might not support what's actively happening. That information may be related to something totally different, or it might not even be coming from you. The reason I want to talk about this today is because I am living out a new side of what it means to know a thing. Full transparency. And this is because I honestly didn't know at the time, and I now know. At the time that I recorded that episode, when I was saying what you know is most important, I was coming from the knowledge perspective. And I gave an example of a story where someone had a rock to build their life on versus sandy ground. And that rock sustained them. It didn't necessarily prevent damages from happening to the establishment that they built, but they still had their structure and the rebuild was possible. In this scenario, though, what I'm learning is that what you know is only a piece of the story. What you know about a thing can really actually get you fairly far. It can give you a hope that you didn't have before. It can give you the drive to get up and try again when you feel like you keep falling. It can give you what you need to persevere through a thing that seems bleak and impossible in front of you, especially when the naysayers are coming to tell you things to try to bring your hope down. The only issue is that knowledge is not enough. What you know is not enough. What you know isn't sustainable forever. What you know has to be manifested in your full self. Like I said, this is a lesson that I'm learning in real time. I have spoken so much about embracing your whole self, unlocking your purpose, and living free in your most fulfilled life for the rest of your life. And I stand by that message. I didn't realize it was incomplete in my life. You can embrace your whole self in different seasons, and different things will present new things about you, or I guess old things about you in a way that it looks new to you because maybe you didn't know it before, you didn't recognize it, you're evolving over time, and your whole self as it's changing, as things come up that you didn't know needed to come up and out of you, there's a new whole self to be embracing. There's a new whole self to be learning about. And what do you do with that as that comes? That's hard for me. The whole self that I embraced at the time that I was given this message, it was the whole self that I knew me to be at that moment. And now it's like almost 5 years from that moment. And I'm learning things about myself that I didn't realize were true about me, that I didn't know were deep-rooted issues in my life. My purpose hasn't changed. And I'm glad that I was able to embrace my whole self in one season. So when purpose was presented to me, I could embrace it fully. It can be unlocked before me and I can accept it as it was. So now when new parts of me are revealed, I'm not necessarily thinking that my purpose doesn't matter anymore, or that the purpose that I embraced is no longer valid. I just now need to take what I knew as it's blooming and blossoming into other things, because I'm growing up. I'm in a new place. I'm around new people. I'm around old people, people from my past. And things are coming up out of me that I know different things now. And it's actually clashing with what I thought was able to manifest itself out of me. And I almost feel like I'm reverting. Have you ever felt like that? Where you feel like you're actually going backwards in something you felt like you had huge momentum in? This is the side of knowing that I didn't know about. I didn't know that my knowing could evolve, not in my personhood, which may sound silly, but I thought I knew what I needed to know to just keep pressing forward. And my rude awakening is that I need challenge. I need to be pushed. I need circumstances that feel very difficult to birth things out of me that I didn't even know I was carrying. I didn't know I was carrying. Some things that need to come up and out of me that need to die, and some things that need to come up and out of me that need to live. So yes, what you know is still greater than what you think or what you feel. And not that what you think and feel aren't important, but truth. If what you think and you feel don't line up with the truth, then there needs to be an adjustment somewhere. And that's where I'm at. I'm in that season of realizing I need to make adjustments. I thought I was thriving in my wholeness and in my purpose and living free, walking this life of freedom to live my most fulfilled life for the rest of my life. I've had joy. I've actually had joy despite lots and lots and lots of grieving and tears, because my joy is founded on a rock bigger than any knowledge of myself that I can know. My joy is so much greater than this world has to offer. But now I'm wanting to offer this side of me to you, because a knowing of self is going to be a lifetime experience. And there's some things that we're going to find out about ourselves that we're going to absolutely love. And there will be things that we don't like at all. In fact, there are going to be things that we don't like or love that we find out, that we learn to know, that actually aren't meant to be disliked. They're meant to be celebrated. They're meant to be embraced. And maybe we were in an environment that told us otherwise. Maybe the messaging that we were getting was that it was a problem, when in reality, it's one of the most beautiful things about you and me. This is what I'm going through right now. I'm grieving things that I think I'm supposed to be celebrating. And I've been celebrating things that I think I actually need to be grieving. And I'm having my mind renewed to understand which part is actually true and which part or parts have my belief systems, things that I was taught, things that I then concluded because of those teachings. Which of those things have actually been false truths, aka basically lies. I've been crying a lot recently. Yes, because of the California fires, I've been heartbroken by my community's mass trauma, as Dr. Anita Phillips preached at 1LA this past Sunday when I went with my best friend to her church. I've been grieving that. I've been heartbroken, and I just want to help with the rebuild. I've been crying about that. And I've been crying about a lot of personal things. Things that I didn't want to see, that was within me. Things that I am coming to terms with that I wish I didn't ever know, to now be unlearning. And I haven't cried like this in a really long time, which is part of the grief. Knowing isn't easy. Taking in new information in your mind isn't easy. But I'm a processor. I'm a thinker. I feel deeply, and I've taught myself that some of my emotions aren't allowed or are shameful or aren't to be expressed for whatever reasons. And so now I'm trying to move from left brain, which is just thinking, to right brain, which is heart, feeling, knowing within my whole self, like at the soul level, the heart, the spirit of me knows that it penetrates my bone marrow, knows. That's the side of me that when I recorded, which is more important, your feelings or your thoughts, I hadn't gone into that space. Not the way that I'm going at it right now. I actually thought I hit the root back then. I thought I hit the knowing I needed to know at that time, and perhaps I did. That was what I knew, was what I was going to know, is what the Lord needed me to know. And now I'm in a new process of knowing, and it's overwhelming. And it's hard. And this is a side of knowing that I cannot do by myself. My best friend, Janelle, who you've seen her episode, hopefully, if not, go back a couple episodes and see part 1 and part 2 of her show, because it's amazing. She has been in a human perspective, a rock for me through all of this. And I've never had someone in my life that I can wrestle through the beautiful and the ugly without shame. And they tarry with me through it. And I think there's a level of knowing that actually requires community. Hopefully not just one person, maybe it's a handful of people. But to have people that will tarry with you in the birthing and the blossoming, the manifestation of the knowing here, it takes people outside of you to get it to take root and to not be let go. There's a book that I'm reading right now. Highly recommend it. It's called Chasing Vines. And in that book, it's talking about how grapes, in the process of harvesting grapes, parallels how our lives are as people. And I just got through a chapter that discussed the process of harvesting a vineyard, in how a person would need to find a place that has rocky soil on an a nice hill, not something too steep, not something too flat, but just right. And utilizing the stones in the soil to produce a hefty, fruitful harvest. Because if you try to plant a vineyard in soil that has no rocks, it'll thrive. Oh, honey, it's going to look like my hair, luscious and beautiful, okay? But it will have zero fruit. It'll be green and bushy and bountiful and beautiful, and it won't do what it's actually designed to do. Because it's comfortable, it has no opposition, it is thriving in the space it wants to thrive in. But when you put it in stony soil, it has to fight. It has to tarry. The vine dresser has to come in and help prune it and guide it, and it's painful. And the vine basically has to die because it's fighting so hard to bear fruit through the stones that it can only produce like a cluster of grapes, but that's a bountiful harvest. And it's rich and it's luscious because it had to tarry through a thing. It had to suffer through a thing. It had to go through the cuts and the grafting and the guiding and the shifting to make sure it's in the right sunlight and produce just enough fruit for you or for me to eat, to make grape juice out of, new wine. I'm realizing that we are in a season of Earth's history where people are running away from stony soil. They don't want it. They want to avoid it. Kentucky was my stone-free soil. It became my stone-free soil in that I got comfortable. I had friends. I had church family. I was recording from my oasis of a townhome where I lived by myself in my space with my decorations the way I've wanted them. Nobody to bother me. And I was thriving. That's the season where I was learning about feelings versus thoughts versus knowing. That's the season where I learned about embracing wholeness, unlocking purpose, and living free. And then I got called to move to California. I got called to move back in with my parents. I got called to lead a ministry in downtown LA. I got called to have a space that was no longer just my own. And I met a side of myself that I thought was healed and whole and thriving. And I'm learning I just had a lot of beautiful leaves. They're great, beautiful, wonderful. But the fruit, I had some. I'm not going to say I had no fruit. I had some stony moments. But I think long term, this experience was going to be the thing that birthed fruit out of me in plentiful harvest. The society we live in wants us to run away from stony soil. It wants us to have no stones. It wants us to put in policies even to avoid any possible stone ever. We have been traumatized and abused. And historically, this is a human problem. We traumatize and abuse each other, even when we don't want to. Dr. Anita.